But I wanted to share just this heartfulness practice with you all because I have talked to a lot of people recently, and I'm discovering I'm not the only one who struggles with seasonal affective disorder. And so this practice is one that kind of helps with like a little lift when you're really feeling the effects of like the long, dreary days of winter. And one thing I want to be crystal clear about is like, I'm not here to diagnose your seasonal affective disorder. So obviously take this with a grain of salt. But mindfulness is about raising that awareness. So it's not a magical fix, but it is one of the things we can use in conjunction with some other practices that I'll share with you shortly that can really help combat the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder. So if any of this stuff on the screen here sounds like you, I highly recommend that you bring that up with your doctor as soon as possible. There are lots of different theories as to why seasonal affective disorder happens, and a lot of them are linked to biological explanations. And that's why I say mindfulness isn't like a magical fix. Mindfulness has been linked to like lowering general inflammation in the body or chronic inflammation of the body and things like that, which is definitely going to help on a cellular level, but it's not going to be like the saving grace. So just kind of bearing that in mind. And I didn't know this. Maybe you guys did. I don't know, but I'm sharing for the health of it. That there is a spring and summer onset seasonal affective disorder. Because I think when we talk about this, we're always thinking, or at least I'm always thinking, fall and winter. And it's not just isolated to those months. So again, if any of these things on the screen sound like you, multiple things on the screen, because just low mood, that's not, a diagnosis of seasonal affective disorder. It's having multiple of these items that might be a good thing to check with your doctor. But since mindfulness isn't a magical fix and I am a holistic wellness coach, I just wanted to share with you several tools before we get to our actual mindfulness practice, things that you can add into your lifestyle to help combat this if this does sound like you. So the first thing is getting a vitamin D test. And I am a huge advocate for knowing your numbers. So vitamin D test is just a simple blood test, first of all, and you can ask your doctor for this, especially those of us who live in like the Midwest, places that are cooler in, this winter time. Generally speaking, we're going to have a tank in our vitamin D unless you're taking supplementation. Anyway, the point is the normal range for vitamin D is between 30 nanograms per milliliter and 80 nanograms per milliliter. But here's the thing. If you get your test back and your doctor says like, you're normal, everything looks good, but you're like, yeah, but I don't feel good. Then know your number. Where did you fall between that 30 and 80 range? Because I've been working with a functional medicine doctor, and one of the things she tells all of her clients, or her goal for her patients, I should say, is to get them up to around 60 nanograms per milliliter, because that's where we start to see some of the shifts in mood, in energy. So just because you're in the normal range doesn't necessarily mean you're going to feel that like alleviation of those symptoms. So know your numbers. 60 is right around where we want to be as women. And then as far as diet is concerned, we know that low levels of folate have been associated with the onset of depressive symptoms. So if you're kind of feeling that like lackluster sort of energetic shift in yourself, try adding in maybe some broccoli, Brussels sprouts, legumes. All of those foods are really high in folate, and we are what we eat. So the more we can get like nutritious foods like this into our system, the better we'll start to feel that turnaround. And then obviously like cutting out processed foods as much as possible, which may not be totally I don't know, realistic for some of us, but just being aware of the processed foods that you're eating, reading the ingredients always is something that I teach my clients to do. Read the ingredients, read the ingredients, read the ingredients. Because the more processed food that we eat, we can feel full, like our bellies can be full, but we can crave more food because we're not getting all the nutrients that our body needs to keep running efficiently. Of course, exercise. Everybody knows that exercise is good for the body and for the mind now. There is that connection, right? That endorphin spike is a beautiful thing. So moving our bodies regularly. Some people swear by light therapy. I've personally never tried it myself, but I hear great things. So that's definitely something to look into in addition to our mindfulness practice. So just a little bit about what else we can add in on top of a mindfulness practice to help us feel good. So, what we're going to do is a heartfulness practice today. Some other meditation teachers call this loving kindness meditation. So, this may be something you've practiced in a yoga class before. And if so, great. And then we'll just, condition our mind to come back to this practice. And that will make it easier for us to keep practicing because practice makes permanent. But since this practice is going to involve a little bit of visualization, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and just start to arrive back in this moment, back to your breath. Releasing any tension, maybe rolling the shoulders up, back, and down. Make sure you're not clenching that jaw or sucking in that tummy or holding any tension between the brow. Just inviting those areas to relax. And if they're not relaxing, you can always try tensing up and then releasing. And if it's still, your body still doesn't want to relax, just be like, all right, body, that's okay. So I just want to share a little bit of research with you before we get into this practice. So perfect opportunity for mindful listening, right? So researchers from Harvard and the University of California were interested in the question, what makes us happy and how does happiness work in humans? And they were really interested in the possibility that of how happiness works in our social networks and how that might impact our own happiness and how our happiness impacts those around us. That like cyclical relationship. And they looked at a ton of data examining the happiness levels of almost 5,000 people, but they followed these 5,000 people for 20 years. And what they found, I think, was really striking. So not only did the happiness level impact those with whom you have direct contact, so like your happiness would impact your partners or, your pets or what have you. But researchers could trace the effect of happiness, not just on like your friend, but on your friend's friend's friend. So basically, these ripples of happiness were evident 3 degrees removed. So this data really just kind of highlights that we're deeply connected to the humans around us. So if it helps to think that your mindfulness practice isn't just for you, it's for your friend and your friend's friend and your friend's friend's friend. Then it's not about us. It's not about me, it's about us, right? And sometimes that can motivate us to come back to our practice. So we're going to experiment with this heartfulness, which is really just having purposeful, kind thoughts or wishing happiness for yourself and others. So, I like to think of this practice as like turning us into these little happiness generators. So, we can do this for ourselves, for a complete stranger, but we'll notice these ripple effects well beyond us. So, basically, this is simple but powerful. So, let's start by bringing someone you love to mind. Someone like easy to love, right? Maybe not the complex family relationships where they stress us out and they make us happy. And this can be a person or it could be a pet. The pets work really well for this too. And as you call this image of them to mind, see if you can envision them doing something that makes them happy. Just take the first image that comes to mind. We're not shooting for perfection, right? And as you continue to imagine them doing this thing that makes them happy, pay attention to what you're feeling in your heart. Sometimes it can be challenging to tap into what we're feeling in our heart. And if that's you today, I encourage you to take one of those deep breaths with an extended exhalation right now. Breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out for 6. Because that invites our body to relax and hopefully get us to better connection with what we're feeling in that heart. Now, as you continue to envision this person or pet, we're going to send some kind wishes to them. And so I'm going to say each wish out loud, and then you can repeat those wishes silently in your mind. When you say these wishes, practice a really calm internal voice. All right, let's begin. I wish for you to be happy. I wish for you to be healthy. I wish for you to be peaceful. I wish for you to be safe. Now imagine that person can feel your wishes. Sometimes I like to picture them like a text message. They like reach that person instantly. It's like an energetic text. And as they receive these wishes, just imagine them getting happier and happier. Now check back in with your own heart. What are you feeling? And we're going to try this one more time. But this time, I want you to call to mind the image of yourself. Sometimes it helps to kind of picture yourself looking in the mirror, makes it a little less abstract. And then once more, you're just going to repeat the wish silently to yourself in a calming voice. So I wish for you to be happy. I wish for you to be healthy. I wish for you to be peaceful. I wish for you to be safe. Check in with any bodily sensations, just noting them, observing them if there are any. And then gently let the images kind of drop from your mind and bring your attention to one complete breath. And when you're ready, you can blink those eyes open. All right. So, this is the basic practice of heartfulness. I've used this practice, sounds like so nerdy, but when I'm like on a walk on the bike path by our house and somebody passes me and they're just like so kind and sweet and they say hi, I'll just say that silently to myself after we've passed. I wish for you to be happy, healthy, peaceful, and safe. Or you can use the rendition that I have on the screen here. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful. May you be safe. If you want to get really challenging about it, you can envision someone who gives you a hard time, who might grind your gears, and practice sending them this heartfulness, this loving kindness meditation if you're down for the challenge. But for some of us, picturing just ourselves and sending ourselves these well wishes can be challenge enough. So, you know your tolerance levels and what feels good. It's just another tool for the mindfulness toolbox. So, strangers, kind, not so kind, loved ones, kind, not so kind. It's a little mood booster. All right. So I just wanted to take a second to share out what this experience was like for you today. What's your biggest takeaway from today's session? That's on the screen here. One question that isn't on the screen that I'm kind of curious about is, was there a practice that really resonated with you over another? One that you're like, yeah, I'm doing that and I'm going to keep practicing that. Or then the other question on the screen, how do you want to integrate mindfulness into your routine moving forward? Because there is something to be said about speaking that intention out loud that enables us to actually stick with it. So if you want to take a second and jot down your thoughts, because that's your process, please feel empowered to do so. But if you would like to share, I would love to hear. But I also want to respect if you want to just kind of keep that close at heart, that is totally fair game too. And then as you start to wind these thoughts to a close, I just want to reiterate the power of starting small. Your mindfulness practice doesn't have to be 30 minutes, 60 minutes for you to really feel the effects of the practice. And that's something that I feel like is not talked about enough in the wellness space. So if all you have is a single minute, that is great. Start there and make that the bare minimum contract that you have with yourself. The other pro tip I can share with you is attaching your mindfulness practice to something you're already doing on a daily basis. So whether that's brushing your teeth or practicing yoga or getting into bed at the end of a long day, all of those can help trigger us to remember, oh yeah, I got to practice my mindful minute or whatever that bare minimum contract is with yourself. And then I'd like to open it up in case anybody wants to share. Again, don't feel like you have to if that wants to be like a personal sort of a thing. But if you would like to, I would love to hear it.
I think my biggest takeaway is, which I have like 3 minutes left, so I hope my thing doesn't die. But I've been trying to do like that happy, healthy, like peaceful thing, like to myself. I never thought to do it towards other people, especially challenging people. So, like my stressor, which is coming up, I
Yeah.
feel like if I can, even if I send like a snail mail or something to some of the people that I'm like stressed out about seeing, I feel like that's almost going to bring me peace, like going into that situation. So I feel like that's a huge takeaway. I never thought to do it towards someone, especially that's difficult.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love the idea of a snail mail message too, because that's a mindful act in itself, really being mindful of the words that you want to use. So that's a cool extension. Thanks. All right.
Mhm. Yeah, that was really good too. Yeah, I think that the so I think yeah, I think that we called it, I don't remember what my instructor called it, but I think it was like a meta meditation, or I think is what like the name for it or whatever. But yeah, she would have us do like the way that I learned to do the meditation was just like that, but the may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be but it was to like a younger version of yourself is how she did it. Yeah, which that was kind of weird too, but sometimes it's easier to talk to like a little you, or
Mhm.
like sometimes it would be easier to like tell the little you, like, "Oh, I hope you're safe. I hope you're, that kind of thing." Um but yeah, and I also think that whenever we did try and practice that again, like for that difficult person, like, ugh, that's always hard to do.
Yeah.
No, I don't want you to do good.
It really takes a different level of compassion and empathy to be able to do that for someone challenging for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh my
But
god.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
No, 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 yeah. Oh, that's all.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad that you brought up the example of sharing or giving these like well wishes to a younger you. I think that that can be so beneficial even outside of a mindfulness practice because it's so easy to be self-critical. And when we picture like a young, innocent version of ourselves, it's like, oh yeah, she's still in here, right? Like
Yeah.
we have to treat ourselves with that compassion as we would a younger us. Especially when it comes to like self judgments, which come up a lot in the wellness space too. Like, why does my body look like this when I'm working out and I'm exercising? That kind of thing. Thinking
Mhm.
about our younger self can kind of mitigate that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, like it was an interesting option, like we tried like a few different ones, but I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," because you wouldn't say anything mean to a little you,
Yeah.
or like you wouldn't like you just be like, "Oh, hey." Like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Um
why sorry,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
enjoyed that though. No, I was just gonna say I enjoyed it though, and I think that that's always a good like meditation or practice to have, um, and doing it for that stranger, or maybe that like friend of a friend or that coworker or maybe that like person that you don't really know that much or what have you. Like, yeah, I'm sure like because of course what we put out there comes back, and so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, both of you. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I just think it helps for us to hear other experiences. So
Yeah.
thanks. So that kind of brings us to a close. If you really liked this format, this is what Room to Breathe is all about, where we really just carve out space to practice mindfulness, because sometimes that's the hardest part is remembering to practice. And when you have some people to join you and kind of help hold you accountable, it can be a really beautiful thing. So that's kind of this like group setting like this with one-on-one access to me, so that if you have questions in between or an obstacle arises and you're like, what the heck do I do with this? You have that coach in your back pocket to kind of support you there. And then I also mentioned that Making Time for Mindfulness course. You can find this on my online classroom. This just goes into a little more depth. Again, just more tools for the toolbox, but more depth into anchoring practices. So we'll go into how to anchor not only into your breath, but into bodily sensations and the sounds around us as well. And then, of course, I offer one-on-one coaching services. I have some availability for my 3-month package. So if that resonates with any of you and you want to know more, reach out to me on Instagram, or you can shoot me an email. This is my contact information. Or if you just want to say, hey, I'm still using these tools that you shared with me. I always love to hear things like that. So keep in touch. I hope that you enjoyed today's session. I hope that you're feeling empowered to continue using some of these practices in the future. And I hope that you're feeling a little more relaxed, because that's a nice byproduct of mindfulness, although that's not always the goal of our practice. But I hope that you do feel a little bit relaxed as you go into the rest of your evening. So thanks for joining. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did too.